Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. This is the Kennedy Assassination inside the book Depository. This is part 4. Was not requested. I saw it and thought it'd be cool, so I decided to do it. We're going to do it right now. We're just covering this chapter because it's a long one.
Following a quick sweep of the roof, Roy Truly and Marion Baker returned to the ground floor of the book Depository.
What did you do when you got back to the first floor, or what did you see?
When I got back to the first floor, at first I didn't see anything except officers running around, reporters in the place. There was a regular madhouse.
Had they sealed off?
They ran into the book Depository? Reporters and everything? Try doing that now.
The building yet, do you know?
I am sure they had.
Then what?
Then, in a few minutes, it could have been moments or minutes at a time like that, I noticed some of my boys were over in the west corner of the shipping department, and there were several officers over there taking their names and addresses and so forth. I noticed that Lee Oswald was not among these boys.
Oswald was not the only absentee, but he was the only one whom Truly knew for a fact had left the building after the shooting. Meanwhile, on the 6th floor, a stack of boxes in the southeast corner attracted the attention of Deputy Luke Mooney.
I went straight across to the southeast corner of the building, and I saw these high boxes, and the minute I squeezed between these two stacks of boxes, I had to turn myself sideways to get in there. That is when I saw the expended shells, and the boxes that were stacked up looked to be a rest for the weapon.
2 windows west of the sniper's nest, authorities found a bottle of Dr. Pepper and some chicken bones, leftovers from the lunch eaten by Bonnie Williams shortly before the assassination. But according to some...
Bonnie Williams was the shooter. Alright, there's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate. And you want to watch the rest of it, don't you? You think I'm lying? Alright.
Some officers, including Mooney, remains of a similar meal were also found in the sniper's nest.
Does this photograph show any place where you saw the chicken bone?
If I recall correctly, the chicken bone could have been laying on this box, or it might have been laying on this box right here. There was one of them partially eaten, and there was a little small paper poke.
By poke, you mean a paper sack?
Right. The assassin could just maybe take one step and lay it over there, if he was the one that put it there.
In spite of this, no such items were ever photographed. Apart from the sack of chicken bones found here, there are no records of leftovers being recovered from anywhere else near the sniper's nest.
Now, did you see a chicken bone over near the boxes in the southeast corner?
I don't believe there was one there.
You didn't see any. One witness, a deputy sheriff named Luke Mooney, said he found a piece of chicken partly eaten on top of one of the boxes. Did you see anything like that?
No.
Was anything like that called to your attention?
I can't recall anything like that.
But it wasn't just the chicken bones. There were similar disagreements regarding the 3 cartridge cases. According to Mooney, Dallas Police Captain William Fritz tampered with the evidence.
Are those the empty shells you found?
Yes, sir.
Now, will you take this marker and encircle the shells?
All right.
They were turned over to Captain Fritz?
Yes, sir. He was the first officer that picked him up, as far as I know, because I stood there and watched him go over and pick them up and look at them.
Is this the position of the cartridges, as shown in this photograph, as you saw them?
Yes, sir. That is just about the way they were laying, to the best of my knowledge. I do know there was one further away, and these other 2 were relatively close to each other on this particular area. But these cartridges, this one and this one, looks like they are further apart than they actually was.
Now, I didn't quite understand. Did you say that it was your memory that A and B were not that close together?
Just from my memory, it seems that this cartridge ought to have been over this way a little further.
You mean the B cartridge should be closer to the C?
Closer to the C, yes, sir.
Mooney did not explicitly state, but strongly implied that Captain Fritz moved at least one of the cartridge cases before they were photographed.
Maybe by moved it, he got back there, and maybe he did, for whatever reason. I'm just throwing this out there. He wiggles wiggles or wriggles. He moves around the corner, and he might have seen shell A. And then he sees shell B. He sees shell A, say he comes around the corner here, and B will say is right here, and C's there. So he comes around the corner, he sees A, he sees B, he steps in, he turns and looks and sees C, and as he does, maybe he steps on the shell just enough, and as he steps on it, it rotates and like it spins or something and goes away. And so he and he moves out of there, and then they just take the picture. I don't think a cop, I shouldn't say this, but I doubt a cop is going to go, hey, look, fellas, a shell. There was just a shooting outside, and they were saying it came from this book depository right around this window, and wouldn't you know it, there happens to be 3 shells. There were 3 gunshot sounds, right? This might be a mere coinky-dinky. I think that he probably hit it with his foot. Completely harmless. If you want to make the picture look more accurate, then maybe with his foot, or maybe like a pen, you kind of get in the shell casing and you slide it over and you just stop it right there, and you're like, okay, look, that's about where it was. But you got a picture with 3 shells. I think that's fine. If he didn't pick it up and go, oh, I wonder what this is. I don't know. I don't think he did that. So I don't think that makes that much of a difference, unless they're going to start to say that he was framing. Well, no, I don't think that I've never heard
According to Fritz, he did everything by the book.
Okay.
I told him not to move the cartridges, not to touch anything till we could get the crime lab to take pictures of them, just as they were lying there. And I left an officer assigned there to see that that was done. And the crime lab came almost immediately and took pictures and dusted the shells for prints.
Amidst the swarm of officers canvassing the 6th floor was a lone journalist by the name of Thomas Ollier. Ollier was equipped with a camera and actually filmed much of the frantic search effort. About 3 decades later, Ollier made some rather startling claims that were largely consistent with, but also expanded upon those made by Mooney.
After filming the casings, I asked Captain Fritz, who was standing at my side, if I could go behind the barricade and get a close-up shot of the casings. He told me that it would be better if I got my shots from outside the barricade. He then rounded the pile of boxes and entered the enclosure. This was the first time anybody walked between the barricade and the windows. Fritz then walked to the casings, picked them up, and held them in his hand over the top of the boxes for me to get a close-up shot of the evidence. I filmed about 8 seconds of a close-up shot of the shell casings in Captain Fritz's hand.
While these alleged portions of Ollier's film
So I want to take back everything I just said about hitting it with his foot. Okay, I'm still going to stick with the thought. God damn, but he said he picked it up with his hand. I'm hoping that he used a pencil or a pen or like a screwdriver, something with a narrow end, and he got in, because the shell casing is empty now. It's just a casing. He stuck it in there and he held it up like that. The only way to know would be to see the picture. But 2 people now have said he picked it up with his bare hands. The only thing the guy didn't do was you gotta clean it off before we take a picture of it. I mean, that's the only thing that's missing from this story.
have never surfaced, preservation took a back seat while the film was being prepared for broadcast. Portions of the film were carelessly chopped up and discarded, and fragmentary clips are all that remains today. In any case, after supposedly filming the casings in the hand of Captain Fritz, Ollier recalled how they were deceitfully returned to the floor.
Over 30 minutes later, Captain Fritz reached into his pocket and handed the casings to Detective Robert Studebaker. Studebaker never saw the original placement of the casings, so he tossed them on the floor and photographed them.
To counterbalance these allegations of foul play, I must also mention that there were those who found nothing amiss about the cartridge cases.
Did you see a picture taken of the hulls?
Yes, sir.
When the picture was taken, were the hulls in the same position as when you had first seen them?
Yes, sir, they were.
Even Mooney sort of agreed that the casings had not been moved, immediately after explaining that they had been moved. In the testimony we heard a few minutes ago, Mooney was shown this photograph. He then examined this one, taken from a different angle, before being shown this one. Now, these two are just differently cropped copies of the same photograph.
I have another picture. Here is a picture taken, also from another angle. Does that show the cartridges?
Yes, sir.
Now, compare that with the other photograph.
Yes, sir.
Is that about the way it looked?
Yes, sir. That is right. It sure is.
That doesn't really gel with the casing supposedly being picked up and haphazardly tossed back on the floor, as Thomas Ollier would claim decades later. While there are question marks surrounding the chicken bones.
Okay, so maybe the journalist is misremembering things for a to get his name out there. This is the first time I've ever heard the guy's name, so if that's what the point of it, he failed miserably. Oh, there you go. Why didn't Lee Harvey just hop on his magical broom? All right, back to the...
In the cartridge cases, there can be no doubt that some of the boxes in the sniper's nest were moved prior to being photographed.
Do you have any pictures of the boxes near the window before they were moved, other than those you have showed me?
Just these two?
Then you don't have any pictures taken of the boxes before they were moved?
No.
Now, I will show you another picture. Was that taken by you?
Yes.
Does that show the position of the boxes before or after they were moved?
That's after they were dusted. There's fingerprint dust on every box.
And they were not in that position then when you first saw them?
No.
Several minutes after the sniper's nest was discovered, a bolt-action rifle was found between two rows of boxes near the stairway. Now, there was some initial confusion regarding its make and model. Some thought it looked like a Mauser, but upon closer inspection it was identified as an Italian Carcano. The officer who misidentified the rifle later explained that he did so at a glance. However, over a decade after the assassination in 1976, a former deputy sheriff by the name of Roger Craig claimed to have seen the marking 7.65 Mauser stamped right on the barrel of the rifle. To some, this is evidence that a Mauser was in fact discovered on the 6th floor before being swapped for a Carcano. But Craig was the only person to make this specific claim, did so many years after the assassination, and after telling a journalist the following.
Did you handle that rifle on the 6th floor?
Yes, I did. I couldn't give its name because I don't know foreign rifles. I know it was foreign made, and you loaded it downward into a built-in clip. But there was another rifle, a Mauser, found up on the roof of the depository that afternoon.
There were no reports of a Mauser being found on the roof either. Besides, the only rifle...
I was going to say, I don't know anything about a second gun, because that would give credence to the second, gunman theory.
Rifle seen in the film taken by Thomas Ollier is unmistakably a Carcano. Unique markings on the cartridge cases would later prove that this was indeed the rifle from which all three had been fired. Before the day was over, the rifle had been traced to a company in Chicago, Illinois. The company had sold the rifle to someone named A. Hiddell and shipped it to a post office box in Dallas in early 1963. Alec James Hiddell was a pseudonym known to have been used by Oswald. So there was now a direct link between the shells, the rifle, and Oswald. Not only that, but Oswald's prints were lifted from both the rifle and boxes in the sniper's nest. Apart from the spent shells and the rifle, authorities discovered one other key piece of evidence.
Did you find anything else up in the southeast corner of the 6th floor?
Yes, sir. We found this brown paper sack, or case. It was made out of heavy wrapping paper. Actually, it looked similar to the paper that those books in the building was wrapped in. It was just a long, narrow paper bag.
The bag was alleged to have been found here, yet this space is suspiciously empty in all the crime scene photographs.
How long was the paper bag, approximately?
I don't know. I picked it up and dusted it for prints, and they took it down there and sent it to Washington. And that's the last I'd seen of it, and I don't know.
Did you take a picture of it before you picked it up?
No.
Does that sack show in any of the pictures you took?
No, it doesn't show in any of the pictures.
Detective Robert Studebaker, who'd been working as a forensic assistant for less than 2 months, neglected to explain why he never photographed the bag. In Studebaker's defense, no one was on the lookout for a brown paper bag. Assassin, sure.
So is this the bag they're saying the curtain rods were in? That's got to be it.
Rifle casings, absolutely, but some debris in a dark-lit corner of the room. It wasn't until the bag was picked up and inspected that its significance became apparent.
Do you remember anything about what the sack looked like?
Ow.
Well, it was assumed at the time that it was the sack that the rifle was wrapped up in when it was brought into the building, and it appeared that it could have been used for that.
Now, as you may recall, Wesley Frazier drove Oswald back to Irving on November the 21st to pick up some curtain rods. The following morning, Oswald was seen carrying a package by both Frazier and his sister, Linnie Randall. According to Frazier, Oswald told him the package contained curtain rods which he then brought back to Dallas. But you may also recall that Jack Doherty denied seeing such a package.
Did you see Oswald come to work that morning?
That's right.
Yes, when he first came into the door.
Did he have anything in his hands or arms?
Well, not that I could see of.
The thing is, Doherty was not a reliable witness. When questioned by the FBI and Secret Service, he appeared very confused about times and places. He required assistance from his father due to considerable difficulty in coordinating his mental faculties with his speech.
Sorry, I was saying 64, 65, 63. See, I think 64, 65 because of Lincoln. But 63. Was it 63? He was killed in the 60s, all right? I apologize.
While Doherty denied having such issues, his testimony is nonetheless riddled with contradictions.
Wait a minute, did you go to lunch?
Well, I went back downstairs to eat lunch. Yes, sir.
What time?
Oh, it was 12 o'clock.
Wait a minute, did you hear the shots before or after your lunch?
Before I ate my lunch.
You heard shots before you ate your lunch.
Let's see. Yes, I believe I did.
Now, did you hear a shot either before or after lunch?
It was before lunch. It was before lunch.
You think it was before lunch you heard the shot?
I believe it was. Yes, sir.
While Doherty insisted that Oswald had nothing in his hands when he arrived at work, it turned out that this certitude was based on nothing but a glance.
Now, is that a very definite impression that you saw Oswald that morning when he came to work?
Well, it's like this. I'll try to explain it to you this way. You see, I was sitting on the wrapping table, and when he came in the door, I just caught him out of the corner of my eye.
Given that Frazier had eyes on Oswald for several minutes, the weight of evidence suggests he carried a package to work on the morning of November the 22nd. A far more contentious question is whether the package carried by Oswald was the same as the brown paper bag discovered on the 6th floor. According to both Randall and Frazier, the only two witnesses known to have seen the package, the answer was a definite no.
Now, was the length of the package any similar to the bag? Anywhere near similar?
Well, it wasn't that long. I mean, it was folded down at the top, as I told you. It definitely wasn't that long.
I told the FBI that as far as the length of the bag, I told them that was entirely too long.
Their main source of contention was that the package carried by Oswald was shorter than the brown paper bag. The bag was just long enough to store the rifle in its disassembled state, so if the package carried by Oswald was much shorter, then it could not have contained the rifle. Except Randall saw it briefly at a distance through a window, while Frazier never paid it much attention.
Did it look to you as if there was something heavy in the package?
Well, I'll be frank with you, I didn't pay much attention to the package.
In fact, the length of the package...
To be fair, though, why would he? I mean, hey, what do you got back there? It's just curtain rods. If I ask you and you say, oh, it's curtain rods, the level of interest that I have to continue this discussion of curtain rods is out the window. Hey, nice shoes. What kind of shoes are they? Oh, they're ballerina shoes. I don't care anymore about those shoes. Because the discussion that's going to be had, I don't care about. Oh, they're new Jordans. I got them directly from the manufacturing plant. How'd you do that? That's interesting. Hey, in your backyard, you got a...
Tomorrow in Wyoming, we see showers and can expect a high of 62 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 48 degrees.
Okay. So it's just like, it would be completely... That's all I would hear after that. If you wanted to... what's in that bag? Curtain rods? Oh. Yeah, I got these great... we can end it there. I don't care anything further. So...
seemed about as certain to Fraser as his lack of attention to it.
I didn't pay much attention. I didn't pay too much attention. I didn't pay any attention to it. I didn't pay much attention to the package. I didn't look at the package very much. Like I say, I didn't pay that much attention to it. I didn't pay too much attention to how he carried the package at all.
That seems like a guy who's annoyed that he's continually asked about the same thing. And they're doing it because, as you've seen with all these other people, you ask a question, you ask a question, you ask a question, you go back to the first question, you get a different answer. Or slightly changed, a little vague. So they're doing the same thing to him because they need to test his memory. They need to make sure what they're getting is accurate. And it's annoying. Because it's like, how many times do you want me to say this, guys? And I understand it's coming across as very frustrating, but it's like, dude... You got to understand why they're asking. But at the same time, if I'm in his shoes, I'm like, I've already answered that question. Like, let's move on.
The tape and paper...
Good timing. Oh, come on. I hate this mouse. It keeps pausing up on me every now and then. I have to hit the wheel to activate... Uh-oh, sniper. I have to hit the wheel to get it to activate. Okay.
The tape and paper with which the brown paper bag had been constructed matched the tape and paper used to wrap books for shipping on the first floor of the book depository. Not only that, but a fingerprint and palm print matching that of Oswald were also found on the bag. In spite of all this, some authors refused to accept that the brown paper bag and the package carried by Oswald were one and the same. Instead, the argument tends to be that the bag was fabricated by authorities in an effort to frame Oswald. But you then have to square that against no curtain rods being found inside the book depository, Oswald already having curtains in his rented room in Dallas, him failing to obtain permission from his landlady to redecorate, him supposedly being in such urgent need of curtain rods that he just had to return to Irving on Thursday instead of waiting just one more day, him neglecting to mention anything about curtain rods to his wife and Ruth Payne upon his arrival, and that's despite the fact that Payne actually had some spare curtain rods in her garage. The same garage where Oswald stored his rifle.
How did you learn of the shooting of President Kennedy?
I was watching television and Ruth said someone had shot at the president.
What did you say?
It was hard for me to say anything. We both turned pale. I went to my room and cried.
Did you think immediately that your husband might have been involved?
No.
Did Mrs. Payne say anything about the possibility of your husband being involved?
No, but she only said that, by the way, they fired from the building in which Lee is working. My heart dropped. I then went to the garage to see whether the rifle was there, and I saw that the blanket was still there, and I said thank God.
Did you look in the blanket to see if the rifle was there?
I didn't unroll the blanket. It was in its usual position, and it appeared to have something inside.
When did you learn that the rifle was not in the blanket?
When the police arrived and asked whether my husband had a rifle, and I said yes.
Then what happened?
They began to search the apartment. When they came to the garage and took the blanket, I thought, well, now they will find it. They opened the blanket, but there was no rifle there.
That has to be crushing for her. Crushing. because now they're asking that question. You're kind of thinking, why are you asking that? My eyes twitching. This one, top. I just saw it. Yeah, okay. Sorry, back to the video.
Around the time of the rifle's discovery on the 6th floor of the book depository, Captain William Fritz was appraised of Oswald's absence. Fritz immediately left the building and returned to police headquarters.
We were standing in the hallway when Captain Fritz walked in. He walked up to my colleagues and made the statement to them, "Go get a search warrant and pick up a man named Lee Oswald." And I asked the captain why he wanted him, and he said, well, he was employed down at the book depository, and he had not been present for a roll call of employees. And we said, "Captain, we will save you a trip, because there he sits."
Okay. I think it's awful long. It's 26-ish, well, 27 minutes, 26 minutes. Yeah, I'll probably still break it down. Okay. This is good. I'm really enjoying this. I really am. Okay. The Alibis is next. It's alibi, I know. All right, there's a thanks button on the channel. You can click on it, and you can throw some monies towards the channel. Any donation is appreciated. I'm still fighting with YouTube about even collecting anything, because YouTube's going to YouTube. There's a subscribe button. I'm the only one who has it. Thumbs up button. Go ahead and click that right now. And if you want to click the thumbs down, you can. I will be coming to your house, and I will have 2 rolls of duct tape, and I will just take little pieces and I'll put them right over your nipples, and I will just tear, and I'll just keep doing that until I run out of duct tape or nipples come off. So it's your choice. And until then, you have a good day, have a good night.